Excited, George. Bye-bye.
Major controversy strikes again in the sports world. So, hey, let's talk about it. Hello, everyone, and welcome inside the Sergeant's Lab, episode 6 of the podcast series, alongside John Lakanji. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I got to go back to school over the weekend to get all my stuff from my dorm room, so I'm now officially cleaned out. I got to see some good friends of mine, so it was good to catch up with some people, while I was in the area. So I'm doing great. Weather's really been cooperating. Looking forward to hopefully a good summer. But obviously, hopefully everyone is staying safe. Maintain social distancing. If you're protesting, please protest peacefully.
Absolutely, and with all this craziness still going on, we wish everything for everyone the best, especially with the major controversies that's been happening for the past few months, coronavirus, and the protests with the Black community as well. But we're talking about the sports world once again, and John, I can't believe that when we were talking about last episode that the NBA was coming back, and now players are really in such a loop that some of these players don't even want to come back to play again in Orlando, to play again this season in Orlando.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, there's two main reasons for that. I think the number one reason, or I think it depends on what people find more important. But personally, for me, the number one reason is obviously because of the coronavirus. Because in some states, because a lot of states decided to reopen early, they're seeing a second wave earlier than expected. Because I believe last month they were saying that a second wave wouldn't come until the winter time, so November and December. So we see schools were adjusting their schedule based on the second wave. The second wave is now coming now during the summertime, and Florida, unfortunately, is one of those states experiencing a second wave. So now there's concerns about whether the NBA should play in Orlando or whether they should push the season back. Personally, in my opinion, I think you should just stick with the original schedule and just figure something out. But then the second reason that just came up over the weekend and has been making a lot of headlines this week is a lot of players don't want the season, the NBA season, to distract from the Black Lives Matter movement. And Kyrie Irving, he's been at the forefront of that movement since he is a vice president of the Players Association. So he has to listen to all the players, not just the star players, but also the role players as well.
Yeah, and some of those players were in a Zoom call on Friday night, led by Kyrie Irving, with alongside some of the other notable players, Carmelo Anthony, Joel Embiid, Malcolm Brogdon, Avery Bradley, Mike Conley, Dwight Howard, and other players as well. Notably, some of the players like Avery Bradley and Dwight Howard, both on the Lakers, actually made statements that they are agreeing with Kyrie Irving of not letting the season resume into play. So, with all the social justice concerns and with the coronavirus being still in effect in our world, it's just a major problem. However, on the other side of things, on the other side of the argument, you have LeBron James, who says that, hey, we can do this. We can do all of this. We can combat the coronavirus. Try to get the NBA back in full swing with the restart of the season in the next month, and still try to put the social justice issues to bring the social justice issues alongside it. So that's going to be the major controversy, especially when LeBron James and Kyrie Irving were ex-teammates before.
Yeah, the beauty about sports is that you can use sports as an outlet to express these concerns. Remember when Trayvon Martin, Eric Gardner, when all these racial injustices or all these social issues have been occurring throughout the past few years, even just throughout this decade alone, you've seen these athletes, speak out on these issues more through their actions, either it's on the court, off the court, on the field, and off the field. Especially with Eric Garner, when that occurred, You had the players wearing I Can't Breathe shirts. Obviously, LeBron was at the forefront of that. And even with a more recent example, or kind of more recent example, with Donald Sterling, when Donald Sterling was exposed for being a racist. Remember, the Clippers were in the middle of a playoff series with the Warriors when that was in April. That was in late April, early May when that situation happened. And I still remember when the Clippers came out to warm up for the game, they all put their orange jerseys and put them in the middle of the court because they didn't want to be representative of a franchise run by a racist old man such as him.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember they weren't wearing it like inside out, so they didn't have like the actual logo on the on their chest while they were warming up too.
Yeah, exactly. So personally, I agree with LeBron and the other players that want the season to come back because you can express these and talk about these issues while still restarting the season. Plus, it'll give people hope that if the NBA can combat this virus and this social unrest and still be successful, it gives people a lot of hope that we're not letting this virus beat us and that things can return to normal sooner rather than later.
According to a New York Post, by Howie Kasoy, about the situation with LeBron James. LeBron James' statement saying, quote, because of everything that was going on, people are finally starting to listen to us. We feel like we are finally getting on the foot in the door. How long it's up to us, we don't know. But we feel like we are getting some ears and some attention at this time. This is the time for us to finally make a difference. And seeing how the NBA has really progressed throughout the years. I would agree. I would probably agree a lot more than that. So you have to take into account that there's been no sports been going on. Really not that much at all here in the United States. Internationally, yeah, we've been talking about that for a while, but the way it is now, people just needs to see something so they can actually be excited for something rather than just trying to wait to see what happens with all these controversies happening with social justice and the virus as well. So you're gonna have to see it, man.
Yeah, exactly. And again, as I've been saying over the past couple of podcasts we've been doing, I really commend the NBA for being safe rather than sorry. Again, they were one of the first leagues to shut down when the virus really started getting rampant back in March. And I like that they're being one of the last leagues to open back up because they really want to make sure that they get this right. And even though, as you see with the other leagues, they seem to have the virus under control now. They've been doing a lot of daily testing. But even then, they made some mistakes in the beginning that the NBA obviously learned from, and they'll learn to implement that when they plan to restart the season in July.
So what do you think of Dwight Howard's statements, especially since that he's LeBron James' teammate? Because according to a Revolt article by Shiraz Johnson, regarding Dwight Howard's side agreeing with Kyrie Irving, I would love nothing more than to win my first NBA championship, but the unity of my people would be an even bigger championship. I would agree with Kyrie Irving. Basketball or entertainment period isn't needed at this moment and will only be a distraction. Sure, it might be a distraction. It might distract us, the players, but we have resources at hand. The majority of our community don't have. And the smallest of distractions for them can start a trickle-down effect that may never stop, especially with the climate is now. I will love nothing more than to win my first NBA championship, and the unity of my people, again, saying it's just too beautiful to pass up. What would be a better time now than to be focusing on our families? I don't know. What do you think about this?
I commend Dwight Howard. I like I like what he's saying. He's saying all the right things there. I actually like that Dwight Howard and Kyrie Irving, they're kind of at the forefront of these group of players that don't want to restart the season because they want to focus on racial injustices. You know, because if you think about it, Dwight Howard and Kyrie Irving, they've been involved in a lot of controversies throughout their career, and we even talked about this off camera about how Kyrie was getting a ton of backlash for being at the forefront of this because everyone just read the headlines. And I'll admit, I was one of the people who read the headline first. Then when I read the articles, I realized that Kyrie did want to play, but he thinks that he wants to say that some of these players, they believe that they need to discuss these racial injustices as well. But again, I'm still of the opinion that you can still address and confront these issues through the sport while playing the game, whether it's maybe making donations or just making some announcements or maybe even talking with the league or working with the league to do something. Even we talked yesterday about how Charles Barkley, he said that it would be a catastrophic mistake for the NBA to not resume because of racial injustices. Now, his reasons were a bit outspoken, but I gotta say that I agree with him. He said that the NBA needs all the revenue they can get, and the players can use that revenue, the money they make, to contribute to their communities. Which, it may sound crazy, but it makes sense if you think about it.
Yeah, but in the spider things, you gotta think about the play risking a lot for some of these players, especially the star players, really want to make a push. The controversy between players that want to play to win a championship, like LeBron James, like Giannis Antetokounmpo, they want to prove themselves in the NBA. Other than bench players and teams that really don't want to make a push in the playoffs who are lower in the seeds, they're not going to even make it any chance for it. So that's going to be also another thing that we're going to be talking about right now. Because what do you see in terms of the way some of the mentality of some of the players are? Because obviously we all know that LBJ wants to win a championship for LA. There's no doubt about that. But then there's other players around the league who just want to play just for the money.
Well, yeah, then that's the thing. You have players. It's obvious that players have different agendas in life, as you mentioned. But again, going to the racial injustice thing, these players they've already been making an impact in the community. You have star players such as LeBron, Westbrook, I believe Giannis. They've been going out in the community. They've been contributing. Now, in terms of the mindset of the difference between the star players who want to win a championship such as LeBron and the players who want to just make money, it seems that an overwhelming majority of them, at the end of the day, they still want to play. But another thing that people seem to not be thinking about is that it's only an invitation. That the players were invited. The teams were invited to Orlando. Just because they were invited doesn't mean that it's mandatory they have to play. It's going to be voluntary, and that's why Adam Silver and the NBA already came on and said that if the players don't want to play, that they won't be penalized for it, but they won't get paid. So obviously money is going to be a big factor. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in this next month and a half.
Exactly, and then also you got to worry about the views. You got to worry about how many people's going to actually be watching it. You got to be worried about who's going to, and for the most part, who the heck is actually going to be playing, because even some of the top teams in the league, such as the Lakers, don't have some of their assets on the team, as we're just talking about with Dwight Howard and Avery Bradley. That's kind of a major. There's a kind of major pieces on the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And a situation I can easily see happening is that it seems like the NBA is gonna move forward with the restart plan. Adam Silver already came on, made a statement yesterday that he understands that it's going to take tremendous sacrifice for the players, even without the racial injustice and the virus, even just their families. The NBA already said that families wouldn't be allowed to, guests wouldn't be allowed into the bubble until I believe the end of August or something. So that'll be probably like the second round of playoffs or the conference finals. I forget. But even guests wouldn't be allowed. So again, the NBA, they're gonna move forward with or without all the players, or with or without the team. They'll just adjust the schedule accordingly, like they always do. They put too much time and too much money and too much investment into this plan for it to come tumbling down now.
Let us switch it over to, well, let's just say a very not so confident side of the MLB, because, well, let's just say a lot of major issues about the restart of the start of the season. It's just been up and ended to say the least. As of now, when we talked last, we were talking about the MLB. They're trying to make a date. They're trying to find certain locations of where and when the season will actually start. But according to a couple of reports, especially this one here from Sports Illustrated, that the MLB commissioner Rob Manfred told ESPN on Monday that he is not confident that the MLB season will be starting this year. There is too much risk for the teams to be starting this season. So, I mean, I get why, because they haven't really been made solidified like adjustments, and have only made certain statements on saying like, hey, we're having a certain amount of players on our roster, having a universal designated hitter, and reduce the traveling time and reasonable schedule for some of these players for some of these teams. But then again, they have to worry about the essential protocols. They have to worry about health issues. It's just a whole mess with the MLB, John.
No, absolutely. But again, I still believe that despite all the issues they're having in baseball, I still believe that timeline-wise, they can still come back, because according to the original proposal that they agreed upon a while ago, the 82-game regional schedule, the season was supposed to start on the 4th of July and then end in early November. So right now it's only mid to late June. So the timeline-wise, there's still time. There's still a chance. It's just that obviously opening day won't be on 4th of July. If I had to guess, it'll be either late July or early August. But even then, you still have all of August. You have all of September, then you have the postseason in October, and then you end it with the World Series in early November. So timeline-wise, it can still work. Again, even if you look at leagues around the world, we talked about in our last podcast, they're doing American Legion summer baseball in certain states, and even overseas in Japan and in Korea, they started on baseball again with no fans. So if baseball can't work, and plus baseball is not like basketball or football, or it's mostly a contact sport. So it's more reward than risk.
Yeah, and well, you also got to remember the fact that there's a lot more players on the roster with the MLB, but that still wouldn't make any sense regardless anyway, because they're constantly going in and out of the field regardless, in a very like widespread of positions, with especially on the field. So hey, it doesn't make any sense. The only one that's really close is if your players on base, players at the bat, players up to bat on the home around home plate, and then in the dugout, and then the dugout and bullpens, and then the guys around the field are very like spread apart. So that doesn't make any sense to me. So according to a statement from the MLBPA, which is the Major League Baseball Player Association, from the executive director of Tony Clark, saying, quote, players are disgusted after Rob Manfred vocally told players and fans that the season would then there would be 100% to be a 2020 season. He has decided to go back on his word and is now threatening to cancel the entire season. Any implication that the Player Association has somehow delayed progress on the health and safety protocols is completely false. As Rob has recently acknowledged, the parties are very, very close. This latest thread is more an indication that Major League Baseball has been negotiated in bad faith since the beginning. This has always been about extracting additional pay cuts from players, and it is just another day and another bad faith in the tactic of their ongoing campaign. So, what do you think about this statement from the executive director of Tony Clark?
Before I respond, I just want to say, isn't it ironic that a couple of months ago when they started negotiating, Blake Snell said what he said during that live stream, and he got a ton of backlash for it, and he had to backtrack. Isn't this ironic?
History repeating itself, dude. Honestly,
is that now all those people who gave Blake Snell backlash because he said that the players were being selfish and not wanting the maximum value they were. Now they're mad at the owners. Now, to directly respond, in my opinion, I think Rob Manfred is just a scapegoat for the owners in the situation. He's the commissioner, so he's naturally gonna get a bunch of backlash no matter what happens. It's the same thing with Roger Goodell, in my opinion. Roger Goodell, he's the scapegoat for the owners whenever a decision by the league is made and the players obviously don't like it. Now, in this case, it's we're sticking to baseball. It's obvious that the owners just want money. Like, they're not even trying to hide at this point, and they don't even care. Even a report came out today that 6 to 8 owners want to cancel the season. They don't even want a 2020 season. And Ken Rosenthal, who everyone knows well, he's the Woj of baseball. He said an anonymous player agent told them that, quote, there are definitely more than 8 owners who don't want to play. So this is just really embarrassing at this point. And the players, again, they deserve the maximum value that they're worth. We talked about this during our first podcast. We've been with the players from the beginning. You need to think about, again, all the expenses that these players have to worry about. They need to get the maximum amount of value of their contract. And even just in general, without, if you're not talking about the situation, we've seen it so many times recently in baseball where players are swindled out potentially receiving a larger contract. You see with Mookie Betts, for example. Mookie Betts, he got traded. The only reason he got traded to the Dodgers is because the Red Sox didn't want to pay him that much money. And even then, like, I'm a Mets fan. I know, so I follow the rest of the NL East pretty closely. Excuse me. I know Ronald Acuna with the Braves. He got a good contract, but I believe a lot of people were giving him flack for it because he definitely could have gotten a much larger contract. So again, we're just seeing it too many times within this trend in baseball. It's really embarrassing if you're a baseball fan.
And especially I mean, as a baseball fan, it kind of sucks that just in general that the way the MLB is handling this is just very sloppy. Like, honestly, like the way that, like, as prior to yesterday, when MLB owners, according to a article in the CBS MLB, prior to yesterday, the MLB owners held a conference call after the union rejects its latest proposal, which was the MLB focusing on jittering in the schedule into health and safety protocols. The MLB believes that they can probably get the season within 50 to 60 games. Spring training will be 21 days with teams training home in their ballpark at their home ballparks, and if the postseason games will be played without fans, players will receive 0 bonuses, which are tied to the gate receipts. So, the toughest thing about being a sports fan is just that, the way the MLB has to handle this is just they have to be very, very specific on what they have to do in terms of trying to get a season or trying to get the season back, trying to keep the players safe, and trying to figure out a way of getting all the revenue that they're going to probably lose to get it back into the next season. I don't know if that's going to happen, but who knows, man, honestly.
And that's why the situation is so frustrating as well. Think about baseball plays the most games out of the 4 major North American sports. You have 162 games. So that means the owners, they're making a bunch of revenue. Just from the home. So it's 81 home games. Think about the amount of revenue they make from those 81 home games. That alone, just from the money you've made from the previous seasons, that alone should be enough to pay for all the players for this season.
Look at us here living in New York City. One of the best franchises, I was talking about this in one of our podcasts before, the New York Yankees, one of the best franchises, if not the best. Well, I'm going to be a little biased in saying the best franchise in the MLB, winning 27 World Championships. Look how much revenue they're getting. They're probably getting, they're probably getting over $1 billion of revenue every single year. They have over 40 plus thousand fans every single game at home. That alone tells you that they can basically just do anything. They can even sign the hottest player going on for over $300 million for 10 years. I think they were Manny Machado.
Yeah, exactly. Now going back to what you're talking about with the whole timeline thing, with 21 spring training games and 56 games. What I could see happening is they would probably cut down on the spring training games and probably so that way they can play more regular season games. Just because of the whole timeline thing, because as I mentioned, they'll probably start the season in late July or early August. Because it's mid June right now. If they're gonna make a decision on the season, it's gonna have to be soon. Whether it's sometime this week or next week, they got to make a decision now. Because for the NBA, they already I believe this will be the same for baseball too. Where leagues they have a drop dead date, where they have a certain date where they have to cancel the season. Now for the NBA, I believe it was yesterday. It was June 15th. Now obviously they decide ahead of time, but for baseball, you gotta think that their drop dead date will be sometime in July.
Also, we want to make an announcement that the Sergeant's Lab has a Twitter account. The link will be in the description, as well as my Instagram, as well, because we really want to push this channel, and as well, John and I will actually be streaming on Twitch as well. We'll be starting off on some fun games. We'll be live streaming, and they will be uploaded to this channel as well. So the link for both Twitch and Twitter will be in the description. We'll let you guys know ahead of time when the streams will actually be live. So, John, thank you for being with me today here in the Sergeant's Lab.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at JML5798. That's at JML5798. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and of course, man. And for my Instagram, it is Sergeant Matt George 22 on Instagram. SGT Matt George 22. Again, the Sergeant's Lab will be on Twitter as well. Both links will be in the description, as well as the playlist for all the podcast episodes that we have been recently. All right, this is the Sergeant's Lab, and Matthew George is signing off. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.